Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Success Live. My name is Brian Galicia, and I lead our global Dynamics 365 ISV business here at Microsoft. And every Monday, we do this at 8 o'clock in the morning to really showcase the ecosystem and ISVs that you may or may not have heard of, to come on stage and share the business outcomes and the great innovation that they've done with the Microsoft ecosystem. And Bucher Suter is no different. They are a great ISV in the contact center space. And we have Trent on the phone or on the session today with me to talk a little bit about their solutions and capabilities that come with customer contact center. So before we get started with Trent, let me do a quick housekeeping items of, if you've never come to the show before, thank you for watching and taking the time to watch live. If you're watching a replay, thank you for making the time to be curious and to watch the conversation or listen to the conversation that Trent and I are going to have. As you see in the little ticker symbol below, as we get started, I'd love to do a quick shout out to anyone who's actually watching live or even a replay. Feel free to just type in where you're watching from. You might be somewhere in the United States. You might be somewhere in Europe. You might be somewhere in Asia or anywhere in between. I'd love to see where people are watching from. So if you want to put that in the LinkedIn comments, we'll do a quick shout out as we do these introductions. The second is that if there's something that piques your curiosity, because this is a live show, feel free to type that in the window as well. And towards the end, I will have an opportunity to ask Trent a potential question, maybe like even something as simple as who's going to win the Super Bowl in a few weeks. For those of you in the U.S. who may have watched the championship games, I'm a big sports fan. And of course, in 2 weeks, it's one of the biggest sports events around the world, which is the Super Bowl. And then finally, if there's something during the dialogue that is resonating really well, we also appreciate just using one of the emoji icons like support, etc., because that also gives Trent and I insight that the content or the information that we're talking about is actually resonating. So with that being said, Trent, thank you so much for making the time on a Monday to be a guest on the show. As I usually kick off, start out with these two questions, which is, what's your role at Bucher Suter? And then what's one thing not on your LinkedIn profile that you're open to sharing for people to get to know you in a virtual level?
Sure. Thanks, Brian, for having me. It's good to be back, and good to be back in the U.S. I was traveling overseas last week, so hopefully I'm not too jet lagged, and my answers come out fluidly. So my role is I'm running product strategy and customer success for the organization. So really what that means for everybody watching is I'm making sure that what we provide to our customers is really giving them the value they need. That being from a product perspective, a usage perspective, or just a feature perspective, we make sure that our customers are using the tools they have and hopefully getting the best value they can out of those products. One thing that I will share, some people know this who've known me for a long time, but an interesting fact about me is that earlier on in my skiing career, I guess you want to call it that, I was actually buried by an avalanche. And fortunately, I was with somebody who was amazing and was able to rescue me, but fully buried, kind of a scary life experience. So changes your perspective on things if you go through certain situations like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, geez, Trent, because I'm a skier as well. I've never, fortunately enough, I hope I never have to experience that. I can't imagine how long, well, I don't know if you want to relive it, but how long were you buried?
It was only a minute or two. It was only a minute or two. I was lucky. I did actually some things wrong, but I got my hand out of the snow and was able to have like my fingertips sticking out. And so my buddy was able to get me out pretty quickly. But I will tell you what, that is a non-fun experience. And, just makes you think about and question the things you do. But in general, obviously life goes on, and I'm still here and still skiing. So love skiing. I went skiing yesterday. It's great snow.
I love it. Yes. It's like almost in most cases kind of peak season now that the storms have really come in as a good base layer, et cetera. Well, thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, I think all of us have a ski story that we could always share and tell, but nothing as extreme as as that one. Let me do a quick shout out for the people watching. And for some reason there doesn't always capture it, but Anne, thank you for watching from Seattle. I'm not sure why it doesn't show up on my screen, but that's okay. I see you watching. And then Richard, thank you for watching from Thun, Switzerland. Truly appreciate it. And again, if you're watching this or in a replay, love to, again, get comments for where people are watching from, because this is a global audience where we highlight great innovation happening from our partners who actually have the ability to support and run conversation or run their great business outcomes globally. So one of my favorite questions, Trent, is just to get started for those who've never heard of Bucher Suter. And it took me a while because I had to get the pronunciation correctly. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name correctly this time around. I think I am.
You got it.
Yeah. So why don't you describe a little bit about Bucher Suter and the role that it plays in contact center, and of course the capabilities, the business outcomes that you really help to drive with potential end customers.
Sure. So first of all, you nailed the name. I was actually impressed. Very, very, very good. So Bucher Suter, we've been around for quite a while. We focus in a niche industry of contact center, mainly with Cisco contact center and CRM ecosystem, obviously, in this case, Microsoft Dynamics. Our primary goal is really to create better customer engagement. We do that by focusing on primarily the agent themselves. So how do you use the agents, the tooling that they have to really empower them to do everything they can do? For those who are not in this industry, if you've ever seen or talked to an agent, if you look behind the curtains, their job is not easy. So anything we can do to make their life a little bit better is really going to be our primary outcome. So even simple KPIs such as average handle time, or just simple agent satisfaction drives a better way to create a better customer engagement for their customers. If they can solve problems, if they can find data quicker, I know we have all been in situations where you have to repeat yourself, or they have to look up information. If any of those things become better, it obviously helps you as the consumer, but more importantly, it helps them as an agent. So that's our primary focus. Obviously, beyond that, from a KPI perspective, enabling our customers to have more wallet share, or even just better customer satisfaction. All of those things lead to a better NPS, which therefore leads to better brand notification, and hopefully a larger sales. So that's our primary goal, and we do focus obviously in that kind of BNS Connects product, which is our integration into the CRMs and Cisco Contact Center.
Yeah, no, thanks, Trent. And you can imagine all of us have experienced that, I guarantee, because we all have called into a 1-800 number or 1-888 number or whatever around the world. And you think about that experience. What have you typically seen? Because, of course, you have to connect your CRM data, well, the tool that the customer service agent is running for a knowledge base for how do I address the question, tracking an incident or tracking a thing. And then, of course, they have their contact center, which is, okay, the number has to get routed somewhere and have skills-based or time zone or wherever it is. What do you find that people are using before they even get to Bucher Suter scenario?
Good question. Generally speaking, it's one of two things. One, it's either they've got a lot of customization. We deal with a lot of enterprise. We also deal with a lot of small business. We kind of go vertically agnostic, and kind of from a industry perspective, we're also fairly agnostic. So we see everything, but a lot of times it's either highly customized, they built their own code in an enterprise space, or they use nothing, right? They alt tab, right? They just alt tab between applications, and they're trying to do the best they can. And in that instance, the primary goal of ours is to make sure that there's time to value. Being able to enable that agent to have as quick as experience as possible without as much, interruption to their job, because also, training and education and all that is very difficult, especially in the contact center space where churn is real, and you don't want to have to retrain those users. So I know you and I don't like change in our ecosystem and our technology stack. So imagine doing it with frustrated customers on the line and calling you and actually yelling at you, and you trying to have to figure out how to use your tool. So that's the primary justification. And honestly, most of the time, it's just nothing. They use alt tab.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. Yeah, can you imagine just the efficiencies that can be had when you have a truly integrated scenario and solution, so that customer agent can quickly respond, take the information, and to your point, within context, they don't have to look at multiple screens. They're actually in the experience and having that information be set in there. That's great. So let me do another quick shout out to, again, for people watching live. So, and may not pronounce her, Gajendra. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, from Chicago. I assume Chicago, Illinois. I don't know if there's another Chicago around around the world, but thank you for making the time to watch. And then Jerome, thank you making the time to watch from Stratton, Vermont. Oh, and we got one more that just popped in. And Kayla, thank you so much for watching from the state of Kentucky. Truly appreciate it. So why don't we talk about, Trent, a little bit on just the experience, of course, your solution. And of course, when we get to the end, we'll give a pointer to where it's listed in our app source, what we refer to as our marketplace. But what's the experience been like? Because you've now been working with Microsoft. You have your solution in the ecosystem now. We're going to talk about some joint customer success stories. But before we even get to that, what's been the experience of working with the Microsoft ecosystem? Because, of course, you work with other ecosystems as well. But what's some of the things that that you would want to share for people listening to go, oh, well, this is what we are receiving, and some of the things that are happening now that you're part of the Microsoft partner ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's always positives and negatives or constructive criticisms, you can say. But what I would like to highlight is a few of those positives. Microsoft's been a great partner when it comes to our ISV Connect program. You know, Bucher Suter is not a large company. We're 130-ish people, a worldwide organization. And Microsoft's really done a lot of high touch work with us. So that includes, you know, joint collateral, I should say, joint marketing, lead generation, and other aspects that have really helped our marketing department really work together. And as a part of that, it really has felt like a partnership, not just a, you know, hey, here's a program and a thing we can get for you guys. Do you want to sign up? It has really been hands-on, working with the team, working with you guys. And so from that perspective, you know, we've seen a lot of success come out of those programs. Even those were not, you know, the largest organization or largest partnership, we feel like, and Microsoft makes us feel, you know, important, which I think is important because we do focus on a specific part of the industry. And I know that from a Dynamics perspective, that's extremely important as well. So that ISV Connect program has been fantastic for us, and we've really enjoyed working with you guys on it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Trent. And for those of you who are interested, of course, one of the things that it's evolved to is, as you can see it kind of on the ticker symbol below, ISV Connect did merge into what our bigger engine, which is ISV Success, which covers all the workloads in the Microsoft cloud, not just Dynamics, but of course, all the other different workloads such as Azure and or Teams. And I appreciate that shout out, Trent, because that's, I mean, no matter what size of a partnership that someone wants to do, in particular, of course, we in this conversation, we're talking about ISVs because that's the area that I focus, my team and I focus on. It is really about how do we get someone who has amazing IP that either addresses a specific thing we don't do. And of course, there are certain things that we do in the contact center, but not exactly what you guys do. And that's the amazing thing that you're bringing the innovation for, which is something around Cisco, that having that integration and having something purposely built for that scenario so that someone who is running a contact center using Dynamics for their customer service agents can immediately get that information. So one of the things that I love asking, because of course you talked about the great capabilities and the benefits and what happens when someone isn't using something, of course, the alt-tab syndrome of I have this and I'm looking at this and then I'm going back here, back and forth, kind of like a tennis match. But maybe you could describe some of your favorite customer stories of where, of course, you wouldn't purposely have integrated with Dynamics unless there was a market opportunity, unless there was an opportunity to expand and drive more capabilities. But maybe you could talk about some of your favorite customer stories, either industry related or cross industry, something that really highlights the capability of someone either going from nothing or going in from somewhere else to get into a capability to allow these customer service agents to provide the best customer outcomes for someone calling in.
Sure. First, my customer success mascot wanted to come say hello, so Coco had to jump in, my English Mastiff, and say hello to everybody in the community. So she actually is our mascot. I've made her a logo and everything. She's been a great part of the team and a great conversation and icebreaker. So she had to jump in and say hi real quick. But there's one story in particular that stands out to me. just like you said, right? We solve a problem doesn't mean we solve all problems. Dynamics solves problems. We have some overlap. We have some, competition, but in general, the ecosystem as a whole, I think, is important. And back to that time to value and what Bucher and Suter tries to bring to the table, which is, hey, let's get you functional as quick as possible, but also let's make sure you can use those tools, whether it be customization that you need because you have specific requirements, etc. So there's one customer of ours who is, speaking of football, in the NFL, and they have a different and unique integration dynamics that kind of changed the way they use dynamics in their activity records. And it's definitely not our out of the box solution. It wasn't something that fit the mold per se, and from a value perspective, it was actually created question. And so we worked with them very exclusively to make sure that that empowerment of the agents works well, but also doesn't disrupt what they've done outside of our organization or outside of Dynamics to make their tools better, because there are different use cases that are not necessarily contact center. And what we're able to do is work with them and create a Power Automate flow to allow them to use our product holistically. It wasn't a complex, highly customizable, write some code type of thing. And it made them really be able to utilize the product and utilize the tool and utilize the people they've got in place. So it was kind of a net positive for them, because they got the value of our product, they got the value out of Cisco, they got the value out of Dynamics. And by the way, those people they have on staff that know how to do this stuff, we're able to utilize that and capitalize on it. And so, 2-3 years later, we're still kicking and having a great time with that customer. So I'm happy to say that that's probably one of my favorite stories. There's a bunch of others, but it's really cool to be able to have them use, at a no cost kind of thing to use the platform the best they can. So that's probably one of my favorite experiences, even though it's a small use case.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Trent. It's a great story because you think about the use cases around customer service. I can imagine that from a lens of who can use it, it's really, again, anyone who has a customer service contact center, maybe has Cisco, or maybe maybe a follow-up question is, besides Cisco, is there any other integration you have that's tying in that customer agent experience? Maybe we could start there. It's like, is there other scenarios? Is it Cisco specifically only, or are there other things that you can connect to that will help drive that contact center experience for an agent?
Sure. So, specifically for us, we are a Cisco partner. We focus on Cisco Contact Center as the integration. And that's kind of a prerequisite for us. And we've done that intentionally, though, because we want to make sure that we're very deep and we're very close with the Cisco ecosystem. It is niche. Believe me, when I say that the operational aspects of a customer contact center is outrageous and extreme. It is. There are somewhere of approximately 500,000 agents across the world right now, and it's just astronomically large. So yes, we are Cisco only, and we also focus in that contact center space and CRM space.
That's great. Thank you. So we actually got a question, and maybe we could defer this with your team, but and I apologize, Arjun, hopefully I didn't pronounce it correctly. Demo schedule. Curious to see the connects. I'm not quite sure exactly. Maybe you might know what that specifically means. And then, in the digital contact center, maybe DCCP. Maybe you can comment on this. And thanks, Arjun, for putting a couple of things in there. Hopefully, we'll be able to address it in the way that you're asking the questions.
Yeah, no, I think the easiest thing to do there is, Arjun, is just at the calls to action end of the call, use those links. No, we won't do a demo today. Obviously, this is just to have a conversation about what we're bringing to the table with the ISV team, and working with Brian. It's been a fantastic journey so far. So, but I think the calls to action, Brian, will help drive them to the right place.
Okay, fantastic. Well, before we get to the kind of the wrap, because we do have a great video that really talks about Bucher and Suter in a much, it's a little over 2 minutes, and it's a good way for people to really kind of frame up some of the broader capabilities that your organization does. But maybe you could talk about, if possible, what's next. What are some of the things that you could continue to innovate on? Because you think about the contact center, while there are things that stay the same, meaning how do we get the call routed to a
Yep.
person. But if it's possible, maybe you could talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you continue to innovate on. Of course, within Microsoft, we just released our next generation, well, not just next generation, but our next wave of Dynamics capabilities. I'm not sure there's anything in there you're taking advantage of, but maybe if possible, in a few minutes, you can talk about like what are some of the things that you're continuing to innovate on that is related to the Dynamics customer service contact center world.
Sure. I think there's two in particular. So one that's a little more forefront, which is, and this may get pretty detailed for those who don't know the Dynamics ecosystem, but we are very interested in creating a better way to link interactions across the customer journey. So there's this concept of conversation ID within Dynamics. That's extremely beneficial to us because we think that Dynamics and the CRM ecosystem should manage and help drive those engagements, and ideally create how they're engaging with the brand later. But to do that, you need information from all the way from marketing touch points to churning touch points. And so using that conversation ID, I know that's not necessarily always call center, is going to be critical to ensure that you're tracking and ensuring what happens with that customer interaction touch points. So that's kind of one area that we're continuing to monitor and work with Microsoft on. The other one is obviously around AI and how AI is really changing and transitioning the agent experience. Back to my theme of agent empowerment. It's not necessarily about taking their job away. It's about making their job better. How do you make sure that they're working smarter, not harder? And so utilizing and staying close with what Copilot's doing, enabling transcription in the CRM so that way they can get agent assistance and things of that nature is really going to drive a holistic approach to contact center. Whether that be through self-service on the front end or when you get to an agent or via chatbot. So all those two areas are our primary focus.
Yeah, I love it, Trent. And thank you for touching upon that, because I would have probably asked that specific question if you didn't say it. Is there a scenario? Because you can imagine anywhere you look, it is about artificial intelligence, AI in some form or fashion. And I love how you're evaluating that, especially from a Copilot perspective, and how you said it is not intended to replace an agent. Because I think that is one of the biggest fears that a lot of people have is like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my job because AI is coming? I'm like, well, not really, in the sense of we're just trying to make it more efficient, to your point, more efficient and better, because you can't replace a person. I think that's the biggest thing that I think about it. It's like sometimes you can do a whole bunch of automation, but at the end of the day, all of us who have that experience, it's almost like you hit zero or whatever that thing is. You're like, no, I don't want to go down this phone tree. I just want to talk to someone. And you can't replace that. You can't, no matter what you do, you cannot replace a physical touch point in a conversation, because eventually AI is not going to solve everything. You're going to have a person really intently listening to the challenge. And I love how you talked about the conversation ID too, is like, what's that one thing that is that anchor point that says when the journey starts with that customer, how do I know all the things that are happening so that when the agent pulls up that record about Trent or Brian or whomever, they see the entire history. And I love that, because again, that's the transformation. That's why ISVs working with Dynamics really thrive, because we're trying to provide those business outcomes between the two organizations. So I guess maybe that being said, Trent, as we wrap up the show, maybe you can, again, touch upon how do people learn more? Of course, someone listening to this, either live or listen to the replay, if I'm a Microsoft seller who's selling into these organizations and like, oh my gosh, we're trying to sell our contact center, but they have a Cisco scenario. Okay, great. Well, there's the use case. Of course, buyers, potential customers who are like, oh my gosh, I fit this challenge because we're using Alt-Tab today as our outcome. And then, of course, existing partners, because I'm sure that when you're doing deployments, you probably work with other Dynamics partners most likely. So maybe you can touch upon how do people, especially with Arjun, you mentioned, how do people kind of learn more about the capabilities and maybe getting a demonstration to understand what the capabilities actually do?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the easiest is just going to use that calls to action link and go out to our app source listing. You can go to our website. We've got demos out there. We've got white papers, collateral, and use cases. So, there's a lot of good stories out there that you can read. And then I think secondarily, just for the listeners here, there's two personas, obviously the kind of partner sellers. And for those partner sellers, Brian, you hit on earlier, the two key questions they need to ask is, one, does this customer use Cisco Contact Center and Dynamics, right? That's obviously number one. That's a pre-qualifier for us. Or are they looking at it?
Yeah, right.
Or two, are they looking to transform their agent experience, and do they have integrated use cases and contact center in the CRM? And those are the two primary questions you need to ask. And then if you're a customer, it's just, are you trying to save time, money, or create better customer experience and use Cisco Contact Center? Again, we could be a very good fit as well, given our ecosystem and our product portfolio.
I love it. Those are great scenarios, Trent, because I'm all about clear, like, hey, you know what? Either qualify in or, not the right thing. And you hit it spot on. Like, when you get started or someone's getting started thinking about this, yes, I have Cisco, or I'm going to be buying a Cisco scenario.
Yep.
And I'm evaluating a CRM scenario. Hopefully it's Dynamics, but of course your scenario does connect to other things. But if it's Dynamics and has Cisco, there you go. You're going to be able to at least have that curiosity to understand, okay, if I got these two things to work together, what would that look like? And what we flashed up here, this first link, I just quickly flashed up, but unfortunately, it's not something you can just click on. You do have to type it in, but we tried to make it easy. aka.ms/Bucher and Suter, Bucher Suter, goes to the app source listing that Trent referred to. And then this one, I flashed up earlier, but this is the actual website. It does have a dash in the middle, but Bucher-Suter.com/Dynamics actually goes into the dedicated website for the Dynamics integration. So Trent, as we wrap up, before we get to the great video that your team provided to me to wrap up the show, any last parting comments for anyone either watching live or listening to wrap up the show?
No, all I have to say is I'm glad you didn't ask me about the Super Bowl. I probably wouldn't even know who's playing.
Well, you have on one side the Kansas City Chiefs, though they might be more famous now because I think anyone, whether you are a concert fan or not, Taylor Swift is actually dating one of the players, one of the really, really good players on the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the other, which is not so good for me because they're a rival for, I'm a big Seahawks fan being from Seattle or in Seattle. So the San Francisco 49ers, and of course, if you've never heard of them before, they're a really famous team. They've won a couple of Super Bowls, not for a while though. So they're going back to another Super Bowl, and it's kind of a rematch because I think they played against each other. I can't remember what Super Bowl it is, but I like football, but I'm not in the like if someone was to ask me, Trent, about all these things, I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I like football, but I'm not that deep on all these statistics.
Yeah,
stuff, right? Anyway.
It's one of the best days to ski in Colorado because everybody's watching Super Bowl. So I go skiing.
Yeah, no, I like that is so spot on because sometimes when my teams aren't playing and you go to do like errands or something, it is amazing. Like Costco, I'll give you the perfect example. You go to Costco and you're like, there's no one in Costco because everyone's watching a specific game. But anyway, I want to thank you for your time, Trent. One last thing too, this person, Arjun, thank you so much. Ski safe.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Well, I'm going to run the video. Thank you again, Trent, Bucher and Suter team, for being, again, investing in the Microsoft partner ecosystem. Truly appreciate the work that you're doing to drive value. And thanks, Trent. It was great to get to know you, and I appreciate you jumping on a Monday to share a point of view.
Absolutely. You as well, Brian. Pleasure.
Okay. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy this video. Take care.
Our name rings no bell. We don't mind at all, because we're often invisible. We work our magic behind the scenes to make sure things go to plan. We are Bucher and Suter. There is no downpour from our cloud, nor are there bugs on our menu. Keyboards are music to our ears. We listen closely to get what you're saying. You want a single point of contact. We call it partnership at eye level, because your clients are our clients too. We are that killer feature in the client journey. dependably present at all times. You know what we mean, because you know what you need. We are more than ICT. We have connected clients and companies for more than 35 years. From smoke signals to the floppy disk, from robotics to omni-channel routing, from cognitive services to conversational AI. We operate from Switzerland, Germany, and the US. More than 400 clients in over 60 countries worldwide appreciate our services. Our staff is ready with comprehensive integration solutions and profound Cisco contact center know-how. The complexity of your challenge motivates our search for the perfect solution, from the first heads up to delivery. Seamless and compatible, forward and back, on firm ground while the sky's the limit. Wherever you are, we're there for you, so you can focus on your job. We are Bucher and Suter.